I can hear you.
Oh,
It
okay.
wasn't, were you on speakerphone or were you talking directly into your phone?
Talking directly to my phone.
Okay, it sounds great right now. And I don't know, there's sometimes, Jimmy, there's a click when I listened to the first part of yours, there was a click at the beginning. That wasn't why, it was my voice. I didn't realize how bad it was until I actually listened to the podcast. I thought, wow, I was trying to go like this. And
Right.
I thought maybe we should just redo it. And I noticed that was the fourth podcast that I had done that week, and I could tell when I listened to them all, each one my voice got progressively worse. But by Friday, when we did ours, it was shot.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, well, no, you know it more than me. And there was just a couple of things I wanted to try to say differently at the beginning, but I was like, oh, okay, because my wife, I was like, what do you think of this opening? And I was like, oh, but she's like, you weren't raised. I was like, yes, I was. And wasn't raised like living with them, but my neighbors were Hispanics and I was pretty much brought up by them. You know what I mean? But anyways, long story short, that was like, okay, I'll do it right this time. But I was like, I'm just gonna be me.
Well, it's funny. So many people on here after we're done say, "Oh, I wish I would have said that differently," or I meant to say that." I said, "Well, if we did these podcasts over and over until they were perfect,
Oh,
we'd actually never stream a podcast."
right.
I listen. I know this is number 69 or 70. I don't know what this podcast. I don't even know. Anyway, I think this is podcast number 69, and I still listen to them. I cringe, like, oh, why did I say it that way? Or why do I always have to say, all the time? we all say things that we didn't really necessarily mean a certain way, and
Right.
so it's perfectly fine. Um, so any questions? I'll do the same opening that I did last time. I'll update the numbers a little bit, analytics, and your podcast will go out Monday of a week from today, unless I put out a podcast. I might put it out Wednesday morning, Jimmy,
Okay.
as a special episode. What I try to do is, I look at the podcast that was released today was the podcast that I did just before you and I recorded a couple of weeks ago. And I like to look at that one and say, okay, if that one's really struggling, then I'll try not to put another podcast out that might compete with it. But if it's doing well, I'm not opposed to putting a special episode out on Wednesdays.
Gotcha.
And the podcast I put out today was doing extremely well. So so far, and we did a lot of marketing for that.
All right. Can you hear me?
Hear you just fine, Jimmy. Yep, it's
Okay.
coming across good on my machine here too. So
Perfect.
let me know and we'll get started.
Yeah, I'm good with you. You're good.
Okay, the same thing. I'll in a minute here, I'll say we're recording. I'll have about a 1 second silence and I'll start doing a quick intro. And while I'm talking, like I said, everything you do is say being recorded. So but that wasn't an issue last time, but yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right. Cool. That makes two of us.
All right, brother. Let's kick some butt, brother. Let's give them a good show.
All right. I'm ready.
Me too. All right, we're recording now, Jimmy.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Bamboo Lab Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Bosley, and today we have an amazing, inspiring guest on. We always do. I think every one of our guests have been amazing and inspiring, but there's another word I'd like to share that would describe him even better, and I'll share that in just a moment. But before we do, I'd like to share the latest analytics. Today is January 23rd, 2023, the date of this recording. And as of about 3 or 4 minutes ago, we're now being subscribed and followed on 6 continents, 43 countries, all 50 states, and 1,142 cities across this globe of ours. Okay, a beautiful heart letter we received last week from a listener named Jennifer, who I've never met before and don't know until recently. She reached out and said, I've recently started listening to your podcast. I have enjoyed everything I've listened to thus far and have learned so much. Lisa, referring to the episode as Lisa Enos, sounds amazing, and I'm so glad you had her on. I can tell how authentic she is, and she isn't afraid to be who she is. I can't wait to listen to the next one. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, for reaching out. that really meant a lot to me. And for all of you out there, please, when you listen to these amazing guests like we have on today, please send out a letter, a text, an email, a card, a Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn message, get on our website, leave a message, however you'd like. We really want to hear from you. Just amazing, amazing stuff. So, well, this guest here is pretty interesting. I don't know if a lot of you followed the last 2 or 3 podcasts. For those of you who did, I'm sure most of you have, you probably noticed my voice was a little different. So 2 weeks ago, I got sick, I believe on the 9th of January. I was down and out for 1 day. Then I was tired for 3 days, and my voice started to really suffer. I had something in my lungs. I had dozens of coaching sessions, and I had 4 podcasts in 1 week. So by the time our guest and I that we have on today finally did the podcast 2 Fridays ago, my voice was shot, but we did it anyway. And we were laughing and kind of saying, hey, this is the way it should be. You do the podcast anyway. We recorded the whole hour-long podcast, and then a couple of days later, I listened to it. I thought, man, my voice was a lot worse than I thought. So I called Jimmy up and I said, Jimmy, can we re-record just because I think it was so much of a distraction to the wisdom he was sharing. I thought we should do it. So we're recording now this podcast for the second time. So anyway, today we have an amazing guest. We have Jimmy Smith on from Bend, Oregon. Now, Jimmy has a very, very interesting and inspiring story of growing up from foster homes, boys' homes, in and out of juvie just because they couldn't find a place for him to live. He was born in Missouri, went from there to, I believe, Texas, and then spent a great deal of time growing up in some pretty difficult streets in LA. And he'll share you with his story. This guy is incredibly courageous, incredibly vulnerable, incredibly open, and he's transparent, which I have the most amount of respect for this man. He has been married now, I believe, 25, 26 years, 28 years, something like that, quite a while, to his wife, Sally. They've got some beautiful children. Jimmy found a gift, an art form in the form of martial arts as he was growing up, and he'll share a story, and he'll tell you that martial arts saved his life. So I'm not going to spend any more time with his introduction. He'll share it with you, and it's so amazingly beautiful. So I want to announce and welcome the incomparable Jimmy Smith. Welcome to the Bamboo Lab podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. I really, really appreciate that, man.
You appreciate it so much that you'll do it twice.
That's right. It seems like a retake for back in my Hollywood days, so take 2. You got to be ready to be on the set and go all the way out there.
Well, Jimmy, I've gotten to know you over the past couple of months, and I want to do a shout out to our mutual friend, Jen Chelsvik, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago. She reached out to me after her podcast episode and said, you got to meet this guy. He is a warrior. He's an amazing humanitarian. And so Jimmy and I connected 6-7 weeks ago and have just kind of started this brotherhood together, texting quite a bit. And so, Jimmy, I know quite a bit about you now. I certainly don't know as much as I will over the course of the next several years, but can you please share with the Bamboo Pack a little about Jimmy Smith, where you're from, your childhood, maybe what or who inspired you growing up?
Yes, so I was born in Missouri and been in foster homes ever since I was 3 years old. Lived in Texas with my grandparents. That didn't work out. Lived in a lot of inner city of Long Beach, LA County, throughout in and out of foster homes, boys' homes, juvenile homes, so forth and so on. And through that, growing up, I was a little kid, kind of felt insecure, lacked of confidence, being brought up in a system. I was brought up in a Black foster home, raised by them, but also raised by the community as well in the environment that I was living in. My best friends were Hispanics that was next door to me, and we were a minority with my brothers and sisters in that neighborhood. And we had a lot of lessons learned from us. We came from the school of hard knocks, and everybody had to learn their way, and living that lifestyle down in that environment wasn't always the best that I wanted to be and who I wanted to be. So I kind of was always looking to to build up some security, some confidence. And, I was a skinny kid growing up, and fitness and martial arts literally turned my life around. And being able to come across amazing instructors and coaches throughout the years, I couldn't always afford going to dojos or outside, and I didn't know how long I would be. So I'd always go outside practicing outside the window in the street. And then the instructor would come out, and boy, oh boy, did I book it out, because I knew what he could have done to me. And I didn't have money to pay. And my foster parents weren't willing to pay for that until I came across a foster father, Davy Bates, who I still stay in contact today, literally helped me change my life. And if it wasn't for him, I don't know where. It's the only father I really know. My father, when I was growing up, I didn't really know him, my biological dad, but my foster parent, Davy Bates, got me started into martial arts, and started at a gym and started training and learning more. And I used to hate every moment of it, but I knew that I would hate it more in the gym than out on the streets when I would really get my butt kicked out there. So through that, I never stopped training, and I felt it from a very shy, insecure, didn't want to get hit kid to now. I mean, I had my gym, I trained professional athletes, fighters, MMA fighters, boxers, kickboxers, to triathletes, anybody that just needed an edge on their sport. And that takes the mental fortitude that I had to learn to persevere and endure at a young age, and just give them, I call it street knowledge with a martial arts twist, but it's also more or less like a life knowledge to help people and serve them at their level. Before, I had a lot of anger issues growing up, seeing my mom beaten in front of me when she would come and get me. She wasn't on the wrong right side of the fence with the wrong crowd of drugs and bad people doing bad things. And she kind of kept in that environment. But when she came out, she was in jail and prison, and unfortunately the last few years of her life she spent with us, she really tried to make amends with her kids, which is something that I'm forever grateful for, that I did get to know my mom a little bit. But every time I would go to her home and seeing her boyfriends beating her up, and then me trying to step in at a young age, I couldn't do anything about it. So what I teach people stuff is it's actually practical and applicable knowledge through my own experience. And when you're young, at seeing anything traumatic like that, there's scars that are going to last a lifetime. And there's things that you don't know what you're going to do until you actually are put into that. You can say, oh, I'm going to do all this, or I have all this, but until you're actually there, like these scars that I help people nowadays, it stitches up everything for me. When I had seen my mom beaten, like when I went through an anger stage of my life, I wanted to fight. I didn't care if I was going to live or die. I was like, I got nothing to lose. What else am I going to do? I'm going to be, by the time I'm 20, I'm going to be 6 feet under or 6 feet behind bars. So I didn't really care. And through life, I started changing, started growing up, had a lot of street knowledge, a lot of on the wrong side of the wrong fence with the wrong people doing wrong things. I've been down that road, and my instructors literally saved my life, because, and one person that I can't think enough of is Art Camacho. He's a fight choreographer in Hollywood. He's taught me so much, like the working out and everything that like a good man is to be. And he was in tons of movies, and I was fortunate enough to be good enough to be his assistant on some of these fight choreography. I was a stunt double for Corey Feldman, and also a stunt double for Chad McQueen on some of these low budget films. But it also was a great experience, because I love the training aspect of getting to see these martial arts masters. And at that time, Art, and he's still in the Hollywood industry doing his thing. And it's one of the best things when I can go down there and visit and take him out to lunch. It's just like, wow, it's very memorable. And he's forever in my heart for the rest of my life. And, my married now with 3 kids. My oldest daughter, Sasha, is in the Marines. She just reenlisted and is married. Um, my son, Davey, is working. Is going through college and now he's starting a full-time job. So he's kind of figuring out his way. My daughter, he has a twin sister, Annalise, who actually is going to college and is wrestling for college at Southwestern. So all of my kids are athletes. They helped run the gym when I had the gym, and they are elite wrestlers and elite citizens of this life that I want them to contribute more with their own little flavor on it. And my wife, Sally, we've been married for 25 years now, and I can't thank her enough for sticking through the side that I put her through all the bullshit that a guy does to a woman and took her for granted and figure out these next section of my life. It's all about serving my family and my wife. I served myself, I served the gym, I served the community, and now it's like I still want to serve people, but my family's going to be coming first as opposed to my business, if you know what I mean.
100%. So let me ask you, was your son named after Davy Bates?
Yes, he was.
Well, let me just do this. I know you have a lot of people you've worked with who've inspired you, who've helped you to grow to the man you are today, Jimmy. But I want to give a shout out to both Davy Bates for being an amazing foster father and really kind of showing you what a dad is, and to Art Camacho for helping to mold you to that next level of man that you are. I think those were two very pivotal people in your life, and we all have those. Some have one, some have two, some have 3 or 4. And I know you probably have more, but those two you mentioned several times in our time together. And so I just want to give a shout out to both of them and thank them both for helping to mold and create the man that Jimmy Smith is today as we sit here in January of 2023. And I'd like to just capture a couple of things. I love the idea of, I think what you said was 6 feet under or 6 feet behind bars. I mean, so many times that we look at our lives when we're younger or even, middle-aged or older than that, and we think we still have this almost belief that we can't become the person that we can become. As I've shared so many times in this podcast, we all have within us this true peak identity. As Michelangelo said, he didn't sculpt the angel. He just saw the angel in the marble. He sculpted away until he set it free. We all have that angel in us, that ability to reach our highest levels. And so often we still see ourselves as 6 feet, going to be 6 feet under or 6 feet behind bars. We have that low expectation of ourselves based on our past experience. We can turn that around at any single time in our lives. And a lot of times we have to go through and look for mentors like Mr. Camacho or Mr. Bates. But usually we have them right in front of us. We're just not tapping into them. And sometimes some of your mentors might be people like Mr. Jimmy Smith here or other guests we've had on our podcast or we'll have in the future, where we can say, I might never meet that person, but I love their story. And that story is an inspiration to me. It can help you pull away from that mentality of the 6 feet under or 6 feet behind bars and really help you to every day get closer and closer to reaching that truest, highest level of what you can become. So I wanted to capture that, Jimmy. The question I have for you is I know during the pandemic and during the shutdowns and the quarantines, it really had a big impact on your gym and the way you thought about your profession and how you were going to serve the world and serve your family. Can you tell us what happened and what was your greatest learning during that time?
Yes. So when that pandemic hit, like this was the first time in my life that I literally did nothing wrong in regards to, like, I wasn't shady, I wasn't misleading people, I wasn't misguiding from what I've done in the past. This was something that was completely out of my control and out of so many other people's control, that it was the lives that I've had in my little town, Bend, Oregon, coming from LA, been up here for 18 years and serving the community from kids to schools, to people with disabilities, to women's, everything on there. I had to close the gym because I financially could not afford it, and I could not do what charge people their agreement with. We had a contract. basically right from wrong. It just tore at me inside, and it was one of the most hardest parts of my life that I had to go through because of the stories that I implemented. Like, I can tell you so many stories of the people that I've helped, thousands that are ingrained in my heart, more than what was the money that I had to pay for that bill that came through. You know what I mean? So when I closed that gym, I had to adapt, persevere, and figure out, like, learn new technology, which I'm still learning today. Seems like as soon as I'm updated, I'm already outdated, if you know what I mean. So this learning training apps, learning online courses, learning how to serve people through Zoom, learning how to still do one-on-one. It's not the same, but yet it's never going to go back to the same. We all change. Change is inevitable. Either we change forward or we change against it. And changing forward is always going to be in your favor. And this is exactly what I had to do. And I'm still learning. Like, there's so much that I'm going through day to day that's like, okay, I can get to help people. I wasn't much on Facebook. I'm getting there. I'm getting better. I'm getting better on social media. I'm getting better speaking, but I'm getting even better speaking genuinely the truth from my heart, because so many people use social media. Am I getting something out of them? Meaning, like, I want your money, or am I giving something to them? And it's always up to us. You know what I mean? And I was using that to, oh, what can I get out of people now? Well, what can I give to people?
Love that. And, you're genuine. Your genuineness, I guess, for lack of a better word, it really shines through in those multiple conversations we've had. Once when Jen recommended, she kind of told me a little bit about you. I thought, all right, I'm going to get this big beef head muscle guy who's tough or who talks tough and he talks a big game. And when I met you, and I've met multiple college coaches in the past, and interviewed them in the past, not on the podcast, but in other endeavors. And with the best ones, I've always noticed the same thing: this vulnerability, this humility that they carry, this transparency that it goes against what all social expectations are. And yours really comes through in your desire to really help change the world and make it a better place. And that's just something that I want to give you kudos for, because, outside of the people I've been able to interview here and get to know through the podcast, so many people don't carry that. They might in their heart, but they don't in their actions and in their words. And you do it in all: your heart, your actions, and your words. So well done, my friend.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And it's learning, you know what I mean? I have tell people I have a PhD in regards to passion, hunger, and desire to serve. Like, there's not going to be a better servant out there than myself. I'll go toe to toe with anybody out there. You put me against anybody, how can I give the person what they need? And that, to me, at my point in my life, is about, like, dude, I love the challenge. When I was young, here's a little story that taught me. Also, like, here's another saying: there's an empty can is the one that makes the most noise. And I'll
share the story that I like so much.
Yes, I'm going to share that story. See if I can say it in there. So, when I was in high school, I had a lot of anger issues growing up, being around a lot of different individuals that you had to either be respected or you're disrespected. And if you got disrespected, you were somebody's bitch out there. And that was like something I did never want it to be. But it was something that, like, man, I had to stood up. I was tired of being that person, that insecure. So I remember there was a well-known gangster. I was dating his girlfriend, and he didn't like it. But I was like, well, she likes white meat better than brown meat, because he was Hispanic, and it just ate in his skin. I talked so much shit, pardon my French, that I was like, and that's where this lesson came in. So afterwards, we were in classroom, and I remember there was a desk behind me, and he pushed this desk to me, and I was like, oh, once I was like, okay, it's about to happen. I could feel my nerves. I could feel my armpits sweating. I could feel my hands shaking, the trembling of, like, shit, I got to do something. I got to do something inside that little, the two demons we have in our head, like, So next thing you know, I was like, okay, he did it again. I turned back and I was like, enough. Next thing you know, he did it one more time, pushed a little harder because he knew. I was like, shit. And I wasn't saying shit that time because I knew it was about to, I picked up the desk, threw it at him, and then we just started scrambling. And we were in a second story building. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this guy. And I was trying to literally commit suicide. I was going to take him outside. I was trying to take him out the window. At least this way, I would go out with a bang as opposed to some bitch. But I did not want to get hit by him because he hurt. It hurt, and who knows what weapon he had all the way in there. And I was like, you know what? Next thing you know, we were fighting. Teachers came in and scrapped and stopped us from scrapping, and it was like brutal. My face was like beaten, lips were shut. Going to the principal's office, and I was like, wasn't saying shit that day. And then I was like, after a week later, I was like, hey, people started respecting me a little bit in the schoolyard. Like, it was like, hey, there's Jimmy. You stood up to him, watch out. I was like, so I started getting a little cocky confidence, you know what I mean? The more, and this is a lesson, the better you become, the more humble you should get, not the other way around. So what did I do? 16, 17 years old. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm like, hey, what's up? Watch out here. I was calling out all these guys. I was like, man, you're lucky. Wait till next time we're on like Donkey Kong and all this. And I started getting my head getting a little big clouded. Then they're like, okay, it's on. So I was all, you know what? Why don't we just do this? We settle this today. And I was like, fine. So I called up the instructor at that time. I was like, hey, can you be here? You got my back? I'm about to get jumped, but I need like your back. It's amazing at how much, when you have belief in someone, how much more believing power you can have in someone else and yourself. You know what I mean? Like I believed in this instructor so much that I know like, hey, he's got me. He was well known. Everybody knows him. So I was like, so after that, I was like, oh hell yeah. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, you know what? Watch this. I'm gonna talk shit all day long. And I was like, wait till after school. We're on. Like, yep. And I told my instructor, you're gonna be here for sure, right? Because it was at 11, 12, 1. I was like, okay, you're still coming. He's like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there. Because I didn't want my sisters and my family in there because it was my thing that I had to do, and my sisters were already well known in the gang life. Next thing you know, I get out of school, we're talking. I'm like, yep, come out here. 16 of these guys that I showed up with, or that I was talking smack to. I was like, oh hell yeah, it's on like Donkey Kong. We're gonna go at it. Next thing you know, my instructor, he's all, hey, here's it is. It's a legit fight, one-on-one, no weapons. Anybody comes in, anybody jumps, anything not fair, we are going to go. I'm going to step in. And nobody wanted to step in with him. And he was a small guy, but well known. Next thing you know, I was like, okay, here it goes. First fight. Bam, 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 boom. I get in there, got hit. I was like, okay, boom, drop down. I was like, all right, I give up, give up. Not too bad. Second fight. Next thing you know, bam, bam, bam. This guy hit me so hard. I couldn't breathe and I still had to fight. And if you ever got hit in the gut, man, I tell you, there's nothing worse. Like when you can't breathe and you consciously know, like, shit, there's another punch coming, or this person just laid you out. You got to catch your breath. And he was stomping on me and then he stopped it. It was like, okay, I was starting to swell shut. Third fight, on and on. I was like, oh shit, I got to go in there. And it wasn't like, oh, you're gonna rest. Nope, you go from one to the other to the other. He's all, you're talking, here it is now. Your words. And I was looked at him, I was like, okay, shit. Fourth, got my ass kicked 3 times. Fourth time, same thing. I started like, okay, now I started bawling up, curling up like a little baby, crying, saying, hey, I don't want this. I'm sorry. No, nope. Instructor's like, nope. Next one going in. Long story short, he would not let me quit. 16 times I got my ass handed to me over and over and over again. And these guys looked at me and was laughing like, who's the bitch now? Who are you? What's up now? You think you're this? And I was like, oh shit. I didn't say anything, but it was the most legitimate ass whooping that I've ever got, that I've never, ever, ever, wherever smack talk to all these anybody ever. You know what I mean? And this is lessons that I learned. I was so pissed at my instructor for not stopping it or not jumping in and just putting me in there. I didn't talk to him for a month, but afterwards I understand now that I will never, ever, ever talk shit to anybody, because I always remember that. I see kids when I'm still a volunteer coach for the high school wrestling team, see kids get cocky and confident, talking smack behind on social media and all this. And I was like, you know what? Right here, right now is the next important moment. This moment right here. But everybody's a tough guy behind words, but behind actions, oh, it's a different story. You know what I mean?
I do. It's also somewhat synonymous to a lot of people are very, very tough. They're very tough behind the keyboard and Facebook and social media. But when you talk to them in person, they tend to cower. You know, I've heard that story a few times. It mesmerizes me. And I mean, I haven't been in a fight in probably 30 years, I guess. And I was in a lot of fights when I was younger, a lot when I played rugby in college. And I don't know if I'm maybe approaching 80 to 90 different fights I've been in my life, if I really had to count. And I can honestly tell you that there's not one of those fights that I would have continued with having gotten beat. I would never have got to number 16.
Oh,
But you know, what's so cool about that, Jimmy, is it was such a beat down for you, a physical, emotional, mental beat down for you. But had your instructor stopped you at 3 or 4 or 5, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about that as a life lesson. And not only a life lesson for you and your family that you can teach your children about now and your students and your customers and clients, but I want to take this and break this down a little bit for the Bamboo Pack, because we all have had multiple failures. We've had multiple beatdowns in our lives, and we are so prone to think that a failure is an indication that we should give up. You get 2 failures, 3 failures, 4 failures, and you start getting the cynics and the critics and the people who are outside of the arena while you're battling, telling you time to quit, you need to stop now, give it up, go back to your old lifestyle. As we try to grow and change and improve our lives personally, professionally, our health, our finance, our love, or whatever it might be, we tend to, you're never gonna move forward without getting beat down at times. And that's when the critics and cynics come out. The people who don't want to see you succeed, because your success is a mirror to their own failure. And so often, that's when the signs of us getting beaten are the signs that we're stretching our comfort zone. There's no pain inside your comfort zone. There's no growth. It's just slow death. But when you get outside that comfort zone, it stretches, it hurts, and that's where you fall down, you fail, you get beat up, you get kicked around. It might be 16 times. And that's when everybody else tries to tell you, as well as your own mind tries to tell you, get back into that comfort zone where it's safe. But that's a sign that Jimmy Smith, that a young teenage boy with a lot of anger issues, coming from a very challenging childhood growing up, if he can take 16 beatings and stand up again and learn the value of perseverance, learn the value of consistency, and learn, most importantly, the value of humility, we can all do it. So I think right there, that beat down you took as a teenager because in running your mouth off to these people is now a lesson for hundreds of thousands of people listening to our podcast today. So I think that's very powerful. And Jimmy, I want to ask you a question. And I know that the quarantine time and the gym was a very challenging time for you and obviously your family, because that's your livelihood, that's your passion. The passion to serve others, your PhD. I think that's so cool. Passion, hunger, and drive to serve. I think that should be on a t-shirt. But other than that, growing up, I think people are going to be fascinated by this, because so many of us had, at least some challenges in our childhood, some clearly more than others. But if you look back on that time of growing up, until you were, let's say, 17, 18 years old, what was the most difficult thing or things you went through? And then how did you overcome that? I mean, martial arts was probably a big part of it. What were some of those difficult things? If you can share what you want, I don't want to go too personal or deep, but you share with us what you think the most difficult thing or things were for you growing up.
well, growing up, period, that was most difficult. You know what I mean? Because I never had a home life. I never knew what it was to be raised by a mother, a father, continuously, like in and out of the system. Taught me a lot of things that I would never do for my kids. But I remember one pivotal moment with my foster father, Davy Bates. And my mother and my caseworker, we were at Jack in the Box, and man, there's certain lessons in life that are blessings, but at that time you don't take it in as that because you want right here, right now. You want so bad things that you don't foresee the benefit. And this was one of the hardest, one of many hard things that I had to learn from is my mom. We met at caseworkers because I wanted to live with my mom. I didn't care. She was on drugs, on the wrong crowd, on the wrong side of the fence, running with the wrong crowd of people. I didn't care. I just wanted to be with my mom. And my mom was tough. She wasn't a saint by any means, but she had some issues growing up. And I remember with my caseworker, I was like, hey, can I want to live with her. And my foster father, Dave, he was like, yeah, hey, we want what's best for you. And here's what we want. And they already talked and knew this, but I didn't know this. And so when I asked my mom, I want to live with you. I don't care. I don't need this good neighborhood. I don't need any of this. I just want to be with you. And she said, no. So Jimmy, you're at the better place right now. And when she said that, like, it was like the biggest stab in the heart. Like, how in the hell could your mom say that when you were just bonding with her and learning with her and seeing something that you wanted so bad as a kid? And then to find out, like, at that time, it wasn't right. I didn't understand it. Being young, growing up, it was always something I always wanted my family. I always wanted my family. I've never had it. And I wanted to be with my mom. Now I can look back and I can say, thank you, Mom. She passed away when I was 14. And on her tombstone, this was really, really, we didn't have money to buy her tombstone, and my aunt helped out. Our family all chipped in, and it has her her kids on all of her tombstones. She was married with multiple fathers. It has my brother, my older brother, and sisters, Robin, Rhonda, and Gary. They have hearts on one tombstone. And then I have a heart on another corner of her tombstone is me, Jimmy, and my younger brother, Frankie and Anita, is on the other corner of her tombstones. And then her sister and siblings, her aunts and brothers, are on the other corner of her tombstone. So when I look at that, like, I was like, we all have the same mom, but different fathers growing up. And understanding that now, like, I love my mom. Even though she wasn't there, she's my blood. She's what brought me into this world. And I'm going to change my test into my testimony to help others out there do the shit that she went through, the stuff that I have helped, and I still am helping people, from being molested, beaten, seeing that, and me getting that as well, where I could help individuals out there. Is I'm turning my wounds into wisdom to help people. Like, I'm the shortcut. Here's the shit that you need. Here's the stuff that's going to work. Here, I've been there. Most martial arts guys or gym owners have never been in a street fight or been in the ring or been in the cage. I've been in all of them. I've competed. I've gotten more street beatings in there. So I'm able to have through my life lessons to bless people, to show people. I just did a self-defense the other day with a family, a father, a husband, and his wife and his daughter. And he was like, yeah, I just want to protect. And when I train people, man, it is in person or online, it hits, especially in self-defense, man. The scars are there for the rest of my life. There ain't nothing that's going to go there. There ain't no surgery that's going to fix it. But the stitches in there, every time I help a person, I stitch up those scars. And that to me was a hard part, and I can appreciate it now. It when you're going through shit, it's hard to know that every storm will eventually run out of rain. And there is something that's going to be worthwhile at the end of it. And I'm not at the end of it. I'm still pursuing. I'm still achieving. I have scars of people dying in front of me, getting shot at, me being in the wrong place, stealing, robbing the wrong person, getting my butt kicked, being in the wrong place. Like when you see that, my lens is my lens. What my story is my story. It's not, oh, I'm better, I'm here, it's here. What I got served was my hand of my cards, and now I'm learning to play my cards to the best of my ability. As I get older, I have life lessons that nobody else would ever experience. I was in a crazy home. I was in all these other things. I mean, what is normal? My normal is not your normal. Either is anybody else's normal out there, because you have life experience that validates your life experience at whatever stage and age you're at right now. And it's not going to define you, but it's going to refine you based on what you're doing here. And I know I'm a servant of God to help people out there in as many ways that I can, and I will go hand in hand to outwit any other person to serve people at their needs. You know, how as an MMA guy, I had a very diverse class when I had lawyers, attorneys, uh, ex-cons all coming together, but everybody respected each other. And I'm not a very big guy. I'm about 170 pounds, 5'8". Anybody that disrespected anybody, young, small, old, I would spar with them. It didn't matter whether they were big, heavyweight, fast, didn't matter. Nobody would ever be a punching bag when they came to the gym. And it was not me that made the gym. It was the community. But yet my standards of my last name carries on to is like Smith. This is the meaning of my last name. And I challenge everybody on the Bamboo Pack to come up with their own analogy of their last name. Is Smith stands for strength, mindset, integrity, training, and health. This is what I'm living up to help serve people at their level through my own personal experience. It's not right or wrong. It's just what was right for me at that time. I'm not there anymore, but yet I can certainly show people the shortcuts of how to survive and how to thrive through that. From training.
Can you share that acronym again?
Yes, Smith. So it's strength, mindset, integrity, training, and health.
Well, the reason I asked you to do that is because I had to get up from my podcasting booth here and wanted to share with you, since we talked last, I did this exercise with my last name, and I struggled through it. I have to tell you.
Yes.
So far, here's what I came up with through the Bosley: bold, out of the box, strong, loving, enlightened, and young at heart. And I'm still working on it. But I wanted to tell you, because I told you I was going to do that exercise. So I'm going to recommend anybody in the Bamboo Pack, take your last name. And it's really a good, the name is irrelevant. How long it is or words. It's a structure that forces you to sit down and say, okay, what are the words that start with these letters that really mean a lot to me in life? It really forces you to pigeonhole and gain some clarity on the things that are most important and what it stands for. So go ahead, Jimmy. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to share with you that I did take your advice on it.
No, that's awesome. And I think if people, their last name is their last name. Like my daughter got married, I was like, oh no, don't change his last name. But she married to, I call her, she's always going to be a Smith in my book. You know what I mean? But her last name is England now. So I call her Sasha Alyssa Smith England. But it's always going to be in there, and something that my name's going to carry on. Like I didn't know what it was, like how to come up. That's something that I want to live for. And if you put a standards and your values to your name, that's you. Now you just got to back it and live it. And so many people are hogwash on there. We see the illusion and confusion of all this social media, the eye candy. Everybody looks the part, or they pretend to be the part, when deep down inside, man, they are scared shitless. They're lost. They are wearing masks by every persona that they have. And it's like, who the hell are you? No wonder you're confused. No wonder suicide's on the rise. I've had 7 people pass away last year from suicidal. Some of them were fighters, and it just gave in. I was like, no, like we had our issues, but it was like, dude, like to take on these issues, you gotta have something more inside of you that's gotta be that spark. Nobody's gonna do it for you. Like life is hard, but you can choose the hard way of doing it by having somebody else guide you by living up to their standards, or you live up to your own freaking standards and set your stone and be in there and back it to your wording every day. I have to slay my freaking demons like there's no tomorrow. You know what I mean? There's a good wolf and a bad wolf. Who am I going to feed? It's the most powerful thing we have in this world is our choice. And so many people are choosing things for short-term gain, long-term regret. That could be eating, going out on a date, cheating, pornographic, whatever it is. Like that, is it short gain pleasure? That's the hard way. Yes, it is hard. Discipline your disciplines and stay accountable to you. When I train people, like it's teaching them to get their mind right, get their body right. Like, everybody knows the answers. Everybody in this world knows what the hell they should do. They are the problem to all their problems, and they are also the solution to all their solution. The difference is people come into your lives for reasons or seasons, and it's up to you to decide how long each person stays in there. And if you can have somebody to hold you accountable to get you through those tough times, even better. I know a shitload of people in this town. I only have a handful of friends that I stay connected with that are true friends. And there's a thing like I say, I am nobody to everyone, but I am somebody to someone.
You are a walking book of quotes.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've never had, and we've been talking now for 43 minutes. I have more quotes, including some of the ones that I wrote down last 2 weeks ago. I've never heard this many quotes on one podcast, and I've heard it in the first 43 minutes. If you don't mind, I'm going to stop for a minute because I think I want to grab the bamboo pack for just a minute because so many of them are driving, they're hiking, they're walking, they're running, they're on the treadmill, they're in their office. And maybe you can't sit down and write right now, but I want to ask everybody to go back through this podcast when you can sit down at a desk, at a table, and take notes. I've got now a couple of conversations. I'm on my third page of notes with Jimmy from a couple of conversations. And before we get started, I want to remind everybody to please hit that like button out there. I know you're loving what Jimmy says. Hit that like button, subscribe to the Bamboo Lab podcast. Give us a rating, good or bad, or in between. And please, by all means, share it with 3 people. This content, this wisdom, these experiences Jimmy is sharing can really transform and potentially even save a life out there. So share it with 3 people you love. So I'm going to capture some things. So I would like the Bamboo Pack to just stop for a listen for a moment. I believe many of you are right now going through difficult times. The past few years of our lives really threw a big loop and a really monkey wrench in our plans of what physical, emotional, spiritual, mental health really is, sometimes financial health. And we're recovering still from that. And as Jimmy said, suicide rates are up, suicide attempts are up. I mean, mental health has really crashed because of these forced shutdowns and quarantines and things that happen, and losing loved ones through the pandemic. This is a time right now to really reflect. And I think if you took your life and just set it next to Jimmy's, parallel it. Don't compare the two. Because his story is not your story. Your story is your story. And your story has yet to be written and finished. Your book is still being written. But put them next to each other and think of the things that Jimmy has gone through. The foster homes, the failed attempt at trying to be raised by his grandparents, growing up in the pretty tough streets of LA, fighting as a young kid, getting his butt kicked 16 times in one afternoon. Watching his mother get beat, being molested and beaten himself. I mean, his mother sitting down with the social worker, the caseworker, I believe was at Jack in the Box, and he wanted to live with his mother. His mother saying, no, it's not, you can't live with me. Broke his heart, broke his dreams, crushed him. You could hear it in his voice. You could tell at his age, he still feels the hurt from that. But then she did it for a reason based on, her reason was based on honor. She knew that he was better off with Davey and his family. So picture the things he went through later on, the pandemic, shutting his gym down, another setback. But then look at the things he took from that. The quotes, empty can makes the most noise. I'm changing my test to a testimonial to serve others. I'm turning wounds into wisdom. He's not defined by those failures, but he's refined by them. He talked about you can have short-term gains or in long-term regrets, or you can have short-term pain and long-term happiness. You can live by your standards, or you can live by someone else's. You can't do both. So I want you to think about anybody out there who is going through a tough time, and it's many of us. If you're not right now, maybe you're in a high point in life, great. But we know that the average person goes through 3 crises every year, mixed in with a bunch of little emergencies. So if you aren't going through a really difficult time right now, you probably just overcame one, or you have another one coming up. So think about Jimmy's crises, the challenges he went through, and the man he has become through that. And actually, I'm going to say, he didn't become that man despite the challenges he had as a child and a young person. He became the man he is today because of the challenges he had as a young boy and as a young man. Because he turned those into something powerful. I love the one quote he said to me 2 weeks ago. He turned his fists from fist of destruction to fist of construction. We all have that in us. We have an ability to look at the difficulties we're going through now and know, as Jimmy said, that all storms have to eventually run out of rain. But our mindset sometimes keep that rain pouring down on us even after the crisis and the challenge is over, because we're not looking forward with optimism, with a plan, with a structure of how we're going to get through this. And to notice that when we're through it, now it's time to strive again. And then sometimes we have moments of survival, but we always, during that time, we have to continue to focus on that moment of thriving that's coming sooner than later. And we have to be prepared to thrive. And that's exactly what Jimmy's done with his life. So there's so much damn wisdom in here. I mean, the guy was fighting one as a young teenager on the streets and really thinking, well, I might as well go out this window, second floor up. It'll be suicide, but I'm going out with a bang because otherwise I'm going to be 6 foot under or 6 feet behind bars. And then later on, he's a stunt double in Hollywood for Corey Feldman and Steve McQueen's son, Chad. Now he's the husband of an amazing, amazing wife, and Sally, and the father of 3 young people who are out there making a difference in the world, starting their lives and wrestling and college and working and in the Marine Corps. I mean, that's a story, man. That's a movie that's a Hollywood movie right there. You could play your own stunt double, Jimmy.
Yeah, I don't know. These wisdom ages now is acting at my stages. When I roll with these high school kids, I'm like, don't go hard on me, please. Don't crank my neck on this. If you do something, I'm gonna have to do something, and it's not gonna be good because you only know wrestling. I know a lot more other moves that you haven't even been exposed to. And that was the first thing I tell them. I was like, if you hurt me, I'm gonna have to do something that you're not gonna like. They're like, what do you mean? Don't hurt me. Don't go hard. Like 48, like you can crank on each other. And that's what wrestling is, one of the hardest things out there for any kid. Like any kid that's like struggling, or a parent that needs help, like with their kid, get them into a one-dimensional sport, such as like swimming, playing an instrument, track, gymnastics, running, wrestling, boxing, anything that they cannot point the blame and shame at others because that's their way out. No, what they put in is what they're going to get in. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. But if these kids, like I see this so much, and that's one thing I love about wrestling, and my kids wrestled for 11 years. Like that's a long time to stay through the seasons, to travel, to go and to see them through that. The thing is, it's going to teach them humility. It's going to teach them respect, and it's going to teach them you're not always going to be in first place. You're going to be in second place. You're going to be in third. You're going to be in there. My daughter came out as my twins, Davy and Annalise, are premature. And my daughter at a high school level, her senior and junior year, took second place in state, and she was premature. 3 pounds, 8 ounces. You talk about struggles, like, man, and she's out there state champion at a high school level. Now she's wrestling at college. It's like, wow. So don't let people define you. Like your setbacks in life you're about to have your comebacks, and you just got to keep your eye on the why. Like don't stay focused on what you want. And I mean, this is something that's so hard for me. I'm building my business now online. It's hard. I don't know. It's not like I can talk to people in here. How do I get out? I don't like being on camera. All my insecurities, doubt, demons that I have of myself, I just got to smash them in the face and consider this like, okay, round one, you got me. Let's go. I still got gas in my tank. I can go again. It's not over until I decide. It's not over until you quit. I'm not a quitter. I've never had that. I mean, anybody could have given in the towel. That's easy. I could have like, oh, poor me, sad me. Oh, I need helping hand. I could go out and rob people. I could go out and take advantage of people so easily. But is it worth it? Hell no, it's not worth that other side of the life, because I've seen so many things and I've been down that road. I know what's on that other side. Most people don't. And I'm like, no, it's not worth it. It's harder to do the right thing, but the right thing is always the right thing, no matter what. And you gotta,
I couldn't agree more, Jimmy. There's something we talked about in the Bamboo Lab podcast before, and it's something I coach my clients a lot. Is we have to choose our pain in life. And we all, I think as human beings, we tend to really go through life in a strong attempt to avoid pain. In reality, life is nothing but pain. It's how we manage it. It's the pain we choose. And what I mean by that is we can choose the pain of hard work and change in the blood, sweat, and tears of growing right now, or we can choose the pain of regret later. I can stay in bed on a cold Saturday or winter morning in the upper part of Michigan and stay under a warm comforter when the alarm goes off at 5 o'clock, and that's comfortable. Or I can get up right now and get a workout in when I'm exhausted and tired. That's the pain of growth. And we have that choice every day, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, financial. We have that ability to choose pain. If you don't choose the pain right now, that's the part of the pain, the kind of pain that hurts right now, which is, that physical, emotional drive, that pushing your limits, stretching your comfort zone, getting up and working out, eating better, building your relationships up, saving more money, building your business, starting a side gig, whatever it might be. If you don't do that now, that's painful right now. But if you don't, life will eventually choose that second pain for you, which is the pain of regret. And that pain goes on eternally. It lives forever. And I think that's a lot of what you talk about is choose the right pain. Choose the pain of change, growth, and hard work right now, doing the right things. Because as you said, we all know what they are.
yep. And that's another thing too. Like I got bad, I had knee surgery from 39 years of combative arts, like training, physical. I got shoulder issues. I got arthritis on my neck. Man, who would have ever think of what I'm 48 years old and I'd still be doing this, but I love it so much that now I don't, I sit back and I'm like, hey, you guys hold pads now. For years, having fighters, heavyweights, boxers, anybody in there twisting, getting manipulated on my arms, configured into a pretzel. Sometimes some of these elite jiu-jitsu guys, I'm like, damn, you got me twisted. Now can I punch you to even out the odds? Because straight up grappling, you're gonna whoop my butt. But if I can add my own flavor to my style, everybody has a style. Keep it to your style. If you have, like, I wear glasses for reading. These my glasses are for me. These are my prescriptions. These are my lenses. If you put them on, you might be like, what the heck are you this? Because they're not yours. They're mine. Everybody in life has their own lenses. See through your own prescription, so to speak, and don't try to see through other people, because that's not you. That's not yours. That's not made for you. It's not you. And in class, I had this life creed that I got from some other coaches that I kind of took and added onto mine. Is it cool if I read it out to you guys or to you, Brian?
Yes.
So every day before class, kids class, fitness class, MMA class, fighters class, like anybody, women's class, every class I had at the gym, I would say the same. And it would be a life creed. And I think this would be valuable for everybody. It says, today I'll be too calm for worry, too noble for anger, and too strong for defeat. I will walk through fear without hesitation. I intend to develop myself in a positive manner and avoid anything that would reduce my mental growth or my physical health. I intend to develop self-discipline in order to bring out the best in myself and others. I intend to use what I learn in class constructively and defensively to help myself and others, and never to be abusive or offensive. Through the martial arts, through this, every class, that was how we started. People have a bow or a sensei. I'm not at one of those high level markers. I'm at the same level. I just provided a great training space. We're all at the same level. When we started saying that creed, it was like the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody was silent and they repeated. And it was the greatest thing because it was just like a sign of respect. Didn't matter when you were talking off on the sideline, anything, music, yeah, music goes on there, I'll start. I'm not a very loud, obnoxious person. I don't yell and scream unless you're in the corner or on the mat and I have to corner you. And I'm like, then I get a little loud, then I can't use my voice for the next week because I'm not trained to yell like that. But these are stuff that I think people could be valuable and take apart what's meaningful to you and add your flavor to it. When I'm teaching a self-defense or I'm teaching anything hands-on through Zoom or even in person, I'm like, here's the quickest way you're going to learn anything in life. You go out and you teach it to somebody else. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you just put your own flavor to it. As long as you teach it, you just now validated what you just learned.
Amen. I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm going to let the Bamboo Pack members know, please, when you're listening to this podcast, scroll down to the body of the text of this podcast. That mantra that Jimmy shares with his class is going to be imprinted in there. So you'll be able to read that off. I would recommend printing that off. I really believe that when I talk to successful people, and I mean successful, not just financial, people who really have a great grasp on life, who are living life at their true peak identity, their highest level, they all have a mantra they share. They read it off. They say it once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day. Through the great works of Gay Hendricks and his books, and he was a guest on my podcast several months ago. I created mine several months ago, and I read it. I say it out loud 3 times a day, and I use my body when I'm doing it. I talk with my hands, and I really incorporate that. It has made a big difference and shift, not just in me psychologically, but in me physiologically, as the brain chemicals and the cellular structure of your brain changes when you do these kind of things. So please, if you don't have one now, you in the Bamboo Pack, Jimmy's is right here. Print it off. It'd be a great thing to start your day with each and every single day. Jimmy, I've got another question before we begin to wrap up. And I asked you this a couple of weeks ago, but you and I are going to we're going to jump on a time machine. I'm going to take you back to the era of you still just learning. You had just gotten your butt kicked for the 16th time. You're laying there on the ground, and we're going to fly back, and I'm going to stand back and just observe. You're going to bend down and grab the hand of that young man who is yourself at a younger age. And you're going to sit down and talk with him. What piece of advice would you share with him as you at your age and your experience and wisdom now? What would you share with a younger version because he just got his butt kicked for the 16th time?
Number one, God gave us one mouth, 2 ears, speak less, listen more, and shut up. You know what I mean? Don't be cocky. Like, cockiness is just cowardness because you're covering up a thing that you have no idea who you want to be or who you're trying to be. Most importantly, like, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Like, man, I'm going through this. Everything's going to be okay. Be in the present moment at whatever moment you are, at whatever life stage you are on your timeline of this life line. Like, be in the present moment, appreciate the good, the bad, the happy, the sad, and know that you are made for more. And if you believe it, if you believe in your heart of hearts that you are, I believe in my heart of hearts that I am made for more. I can do more. I can be more. I can help more. I will do more. I am more. You know what I mean? So your lessons will be repeated until you learn the lesson in life.
I love that. So I'm gonna use that what you would say to that young Jimmy Smith lying on the street as you pick him up. I'm gonna turn this around because I'm saying it to myself, but I'm also saying it to the Bamboo Pack. So here, I'm just going to capture what Jimmy just said. You have one mouth and two ears. Shut up. Cockiness is just a form of cowardice. Cowardice. Everything's going to be okay. Stay present. Wherever you are in life, stay present. Appreciate the good, the bad, the happy, and the sad. They're all there for a lesson. And you are made for more. You're made for more. In fact, you are more. Deep down, you're that true peak identity. That true peak identity that you were born with is still in there. So thank you, Jimmy, for that. So I know what's next for you. You're really building your business online. You have, so your website will be included in the body text of this podcast. You're developing friendships. You're coaching online. You're doing some fundraising for the less fortunate. You've got a lot of things going. And I'm really excited to introduce the Bamboo Pack to your online coaching and your online training, because that's what I really like about yours is you're helping people build mental and physical fortitude, and your lessons are practical. It's not just some high, it's not just some Zen, psychobabble bull crap. It's really practical knowledge of, for changing your body, changing your mind, therefore changing your spirit. And I think there's so many people out there right now that can get so much benefit from what you're offering to the world. And I love, you haven't shared this on this podcast, but I know. So for you Bamboo Pack members out there, Jimmy's goal is to serve and help 1 million people before he leaves this earth. 1 million. That is a mark. That's a legacy that can you imagine the future generations that will be impacted by his 1 million? So I'm going to ask you listening out there, be one of those 1 million. Jump on, listen to what Jimmy has to offer. Click on the links below and listen to what Jimmy has to offer. Because I think just by knowing this amazing man, the unconquerable Jimmy Smith for the past couple of months, this is really amazing stuff. So Jimmy, before we wrap up, the final question I'm going to ask you is there any question that I did not ask that you wish I would have? Or is there any final message you want to leave to the Bamboo Pack?
No, I think you did a great job, and I appreciate this podcast. If it wasn't for Jen, hats off to her. We're all connected in this road of life through some way, somehow. Like now, if I had my gym, I would have never come across Brian Bosley in the Bamboo Lab. There's no way. So be resourceful with your resources, number one. Another thing too is like I have 6 P's that I kind of try to live by or kind of go by. And these are just one word phrases, one word that's to see the end result at what we all want. And number one is pressure, not pee, like going to the bathroom. Let me rephrase that. So there are P's of life, but pressure. Number 2 is persistence. Number 3 is a process. Number 4 is a problem. Number 5, persevere. And number 6, you will see your paradise. So I can't do this alone. I need your help. I need everybody's help. I need a team that I'm looking to build and grow and help each other get better in the process. It's not a one way. I was living like Burger King. I had it my way. You know what I mean? It's not about that anymore. It's about, I want to become a team, my wolf pack. I was a lone wolf for a long time. Now it's like, no, you come into this life alone. You're going to leave this life alone. But the time that you're in between, it's time to help people in the process. And that's what I'm shooting for. And if you're willing to help and have core values and have the standards that you want to help people at whatever level, I would love to chat. I would love to figure out a game plan and help each other get better and help others get better. And my 1 million mark is so ingrained in my heart. Like just the other day, a person flipped me off. I was like, ooh, boy, I just smiled at them, and then saw him in the grocery store, smiled at him. How you doing? You good? And knowing that I could easily whoop his ass. And I was just like, nope, that's not the old Jimmy. We all change, and we all got to change for the better. And that's what this podcast is doing. That's what Brian's doing. That's where he's got real people with real stories, real value, real life skills that is an amazing ordeal. I listen to it when I have to go to across the valley to go pick up my daughter. It's a 5-hour drive. I'm like, you know what? I'm listening to the Bamboo Lab podcast because I will download it so I don't miss an episode on these mountain terrains that I go into. So, Brian, I appreciate you doing what you're doing and I appreciate this time with you for the 5th and more to come, I'm sure, but it's right here, right now is the most important time. And I value you and respect you and can't wait to give you a big old hug when you come to Oregon.
I told you I'm coming out sometime this year, so I do expect a big bear hug. I told you that before, and I'm going to say it right on air, so now you're held to it.
Yep, you hear that, Bamboo? Hold him. He's got 10 or what is it, 11 more months countdown.
Yeah, I know. Hold me to it, please. Yeah, I just want to recap real quickly, and I get these, I do podcasts, and I've loved every guest I had. We've had some amazing guests, and some I connect with a little more than others. And this is one where with Jimmy, I've connected so well. It was the first time we talked. I think it was a Friday. We had just a few minutes. I think we actually spent like an hour on the phone. We only had a few minutes, but we spent an hour just getting to know each other. And that was a couple of months ago. And I just thought, man, this is a good dude. I remember telling my son, you got to get on his app. You got to check his website out because obviously Dawson's into fighting arts and martial arts. And so I know he's planning on doing that. But I want everybody to think of what Jimmy has talked about his goals to serve 1 million people. Did you ever hear him in the hour we've been together so far talk about how much money he wants to make, profits he wants to have, gross income, net income? No, he talked about the number of people he wants to serve. He's got this equation right. He knows that by serving others, by teaching them fortitude, by teaching them the life lessons such as everybody has a style, stick with yours. We all have glasses and lenses that we see through. Don't try to see through others. You can live by your own standards or someone else's, but you can't choose both. I mean, these are the things he's trying to teach us. He's telling us right here. This is how he wants to serve us. So what I recommend is let's let the Bamboo Pack combine with Jimmy's Wolf Pack. Let's become a bigger pack altogether. There's amazing stuff here. I know I'm going to be jumping aboard, and I've been kind of waiting for this podcast to finally we get it done so we can stream it. And then I'm gonna, because I know I need a kick in the butt sometimes. I have to tell you this story, Jimmy, before we wrap up, because you did inspire me today with so much and so many words. So yesterday I've been doing a lot of snow hiking this winter, where I go on. Sometimes the trails are groomed, but they're groomed for snowshoeing there or snowmobiling. So you step in still about 3 inches of snow, and it's packy snow, and I wear a weighted vest. And yesterday I did a 4-mile hike and through snow with a weighted vest on, and it kicked my butt. It was like an hour and 20 minutes of just constant uphills, downhills, and I was trying to keep up with 2 cross-country skiers that were ahead of me. Of course, they're going much faster, so every once in a while I'd catch up with them, and they'd go faster than I was, and I really try to keep a strong pace, and it killed me. I mean, it destroyed me physically. And so today I was trying to convince myself, maybe I'll skip today and I'll go tomorrow, but I promise you, as soon as we're done, this is my last session and meeting of the day. I'm going to put my hiking gear on. I'm going to slap that weighted vest on, and I'm going to go do the hike of the trail again today.
Right on.
The things you said today, man. So, living by somebody else's standards versus my own, doing the hard things now so I don't have regret later. So I'm going to do that, and I'll probably text you tonight and tell you how it felt so that you know that I actually did it. So anyway, I can't thank you enough. I'm going to ask the Bamboo Pack out there, could you please write in, text, email, Facebook message, however you want. Let me know if there are any questions that you would like me to start asking some of our guests out there. We have a list of questions we put together several months ago. I'm looking at maybe revamping them a little bit. I'm not going to guarantee that your question will be asked, but I do want your input. I want to find out if there's some better questions that all of you want to hear me ask our amazing guests that I'm not asking. I only have a handful of 9 or 10 questions that I ask. I'd like to hear other ones so I can replace a few here. Anyway, Jimmy, from the bottom of my heart, you are my brother now, and we're going to develop an amazing friendship over the years. And I can't wait to be a part of each other's growth and journey in life. And I just want to tell you, man, I love you. And please know how much I appreciate you being such an amazing and unconquerable guest on the Bamboo Lab podcast.
Well, Thank you, Brian, very much. I appreciate you very much, and love you too, brother. And don't make me send the fitness police after you if you're not doing your hike. So
Yes, I'll take a picture from the trail tonight and I'll send it to you. I've been taking pictures every time I go anyway, because I'm just mesmerized by the snow and the trees and the creeks and things like that. But I'll take a new one today and send it out to you just to show that I've been out there.
all right,
I'm thinking, if we can have a few minutes afterward, that'd be great. Jimmy, also, if you can stand for a couple of minutes.
absolutely.
All right, brother. Thank you. In the meantime, Bamboo Pack, thank you for tuning in again this week. This was an amazing episode. So many life lessons and so much wisdom to share that Jimmy had to share of his experiences in life and his amazing conquest and journey. So I'm going to ask you, please, we're going to see each other. We're going to talk again in the next few days, all of us. So please, in the meantime, get out there and sculpt your life. Know that there's that purity, that angel, that perfect rendition of you is inside you. You know, the best way to do that is to every day strive for your best. Every day show love and respect to others and yourself. And by all means, get out there and live intentionally. Until next time, I appreciate each and every single one of you. Ooh, that was okay. That was a lot better than the last one, I think, Jimmy.
Was it? Okay. Oh,
Yes. Well, there's something to be said about having done it before, and I kind of knew some of the question or the answers that you might say, and you knew some of the questions that I might ask, and there's just something to be said about that. And you were just much more, it was more clean, and that's probably would be true for anybody if I have them on twice.
right.
I just never have done that. Well, I don't think I ever have. I've done a few of my own. Where I've done, like monologues where it's just me speaking, where I've had to do them and redo them 2 or 3 times. But that's the first one I've had to redo as a guest, and obviously it's because of my throat and my voice. But that was really good, man.
Very cool.
So good. I can't believe the number of shit. You have a lot of one-liners.
Oh, dude, you should see me in the dating field. No, I'm kidding. They didn't work though. Damn, no. They only worked with I only have one that kept one. One of them found it and she caught on 25 years later. No.
Well, maybe back when we were young it didn't work, but if you're dating at our age now, those might actually work for women our age.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Your ship has sailed. You've got a beautiful, amazing life, so you can't use them. I can use them.
Oh, yeah.
I might.
There you go.
And I'm really glad I committed that I'm going to go for that darn hike, because I got to tell you, my legs are beat. I go for a lot of hikes and I do a lot of snowshoeing and that, but that one yesterday, it beat me. And I got to tell you a funny story. You have a few minutes?
Yeah. Can you hold on 1 second? Let me run to the bathroom again. I've been like holding. I was like, oh crap, I had too much water.
I gotta grab water.
Okay, cool. Give me I'll be really quick.
No, of course.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh man, I didn't want you getting your dollar bills out. I was gonna start dancing for you. Woo!
Throw a few quarters at you.
Yeah.
So this trail that I hike it a lot. It's in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's called the Days River Trail. And it's got multiple loops, anywhere from 2 miles to 8 miles. And I just kind of cover whatever one I feel like I can cover. In the snow, I can only cover the short ones because it's almost impossible. I mean, walking 8 miles in snow is going to take me 5 hours, Right. But this summer, I was hiking the trail July 11th of this year at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I had my girlfriend's dog. My girlfriend at the time, her dog's a 65-pound, 70-pound Labradoodle. And the dog, it was extremely humid and hot out, no wind, blue sky, not a drop of wind. And I was exhausted. We were about 3 miles into the hike. And we were going at a fast pace. The dog, I was really kind of dragging the dog because she's out of shape and overweight. And I was like, okay, come on, we got to get going here, And we got around this corner on the far side of the trail, and there's a big swamp, and there's about 50 miles of woods past the swamp. And all of a sudden, and there's no wind, nothing. this massive tree fell down, and it was like I heard it. I'm like, what, Jimmy? And I don't want you to think I'm batshit crazy, but I looked over where this tree. It was a little open area, about 75 yards away. There was a 9-foot tall man in a fur coat. That's how I could best describe it.
Wow.
And I stopped, and it was looking at me. It was looking at me. I'm like, what in the hell? It was this massive man, all fur. I could see the brown fur. I could see it moving. The fur was moving, and it was just staring at me. And I looked at it, and I even to the point waved my arm up and said, "Hi, how you doing?" And I thought, that's not a man. It's the biggest man in the history of the world, and it's far too big to be a black bear. And I see a lot of black bears. They're about 5 or 6 feet tall when they stand up.
Wow.
And I said to myself, and at the time, my dog who was being drugged, I was dragging her, now I was pulling at the leash to get away. She's whimpering, trying to get away. And I looked, and in my mind, I actually said, is there such thing as these Bigfoots really? Are they real? And I stood there for probably 20 seconds. I had my phone in my hand. And I didn't even think about taking a picture. So I got right away. I know what time it was in the day because I was walking away. I texted my son. I said, something strange has happened on the trail. He called me. Are you okay, Dad? I said, no, I'm okay. But I told him what happened. So I was able to go back on the text and figure out. Then I went back to see what the temperature was that day at that time. And there was no wind. It was sunny. It was hot and humid. And it was the tree that fell was massive. I didn't see it fall because by the time I backed up and looked at it, it was already falling and that thing was standing there. So I got home, I told Kelly, my girlfriend at the time, and her daughter, I'm like, I don't know what I just saw. And they were like, well, Brian, it sounds like you saw a Bigfoot. And I was like, I can't tell everybody I saw that Bigfoot. I don't know what the hell it was.
Right.
It wasn't a bear and it wasn't a man. I don't know what else there is. So anyway, I just kept it in the back of my mind. And 3 months ago, it's just eating at me. So I pulled up a podcast and it said Upper Peninsula, which is the part of Michigan I live in, Bigfoot sightings. And it was a podcast about an hour long. This lady was talking. She was talking about these trails she was on at this one time last year, Thanksgiving, 2021, I guess it was. And she and her friend were walking, and all of a sudden they heard this roar like a lion. And it was following them. They could hear it in the woods roaring, and then they started throwing big, like football-sized rocks in front of their trail. So they got out, they got a hold of this guy named Rich Meyer, who's the Upper Peninsula representative for the Bigfoot Research Organization, which is out of Washington. And he went out there and investigated with this lady, and they found tracks. They had a sighting. They had more of that roaring. They had big football-sized rocks being thrown, not at them, but in front of them to stop them. And so I'm listening to this podcast. I'm laying in bed, and at the end she goes, well, I might as well tell you where I was at. I was on this all happened on the Days River Trail, which is in Rapid River, Michigan. That's the trail I was hiking. That's the trail I hike every day.
Oh, wow.
And I stood up in bed. I'm like, what? So I got a hold of this Bigfoot Research Organization representative. I called him a couple days later, and I just said, Rich, I don't know what I saw. I'm going to tell you my experience. Report it if you want. I said, you can use my name. He goes, Brian, you have no idea how many reports I get from those trails out there that you hike on. We get them so often. People see things. They have rocks thrown at them, big rocks that a human couldn't throw that far. He said we've had police officers see a two-legged, big, hairy, ape-looking man running across the highway, which is right next to the trail. And there's a golf course. When you first get in the trail, there's a golf course. It just is butted up at the first 3/4 of a mile of trail. Then you go into the woods. And he said the golfers will call me saying, I was golfing. It's this third hole. The ball goes in the woods. I don't know what I'm experiencing. When I go to the woods, I can't go in the woods. I'm terrified to go in the woods. So there's been dozens of sightings and experiences on this trail. And I'm like, I'm still going, I don't know if I believe in Bigfoot. I just don't know what I saw. So one of the things my family, they know about it. They're trying to tell me, Dad, don't go out there by yourself. There's wolves, there's bears, there's coyotes. You got mountain lion. And he said, now you've got this thing, you don't know what it is. So every time I go out there, it's not just a physical challenge for me. It's a mental and emotional challenge.
Oh, heck yeah.
It's fun. I'm not afraid of stuff like that. The outdoors doesn't scare me. I'm not afraid of wolves. I'm a little bit afraid of wolves. I'm very leery. I carry 2 knives and I carry pepper spray. Because I've known some people who've had problems with wolves up in this area. taking their dogs and killing them and eating right off the leash and stuff like
Oh,
that.
wow.
But they don't attack humans very often, if at all. But I don't know, man. So I only told about 9 people that story, and you're one of them. And
Man,
most are just 2 of my closest friends, or 3 of them, as well as most of my closest family members. But I don't know what the hell I saw, Jimmy.
well,
I don't know
man,
what it was.
there's we're not the only ones here on this earth, man, and there's so many other things out there. Like I know it's funny being raised up in foster homes in LA, I was brought up in a concrete jungle. Out here in Bend, Oregon, there's a lot of nature. You put me out I hear a twig, I'm like, what the hell is that? Like I'm scared shitless. Like, I'm tough. I know what to handle, but I know what animals, and I've seen too many damn horrific movies out in the woods. You know what I mean? Like I can handle myself. You put me down an alley and like homeless or people, like, man, yeah, it's scary, but it's not as scary. It's funny, people's norms are their different norms. You know what I mean?
I think you're exactly right, because I don't get afraid in the woods often. I've had bear encounters. My son was jumped by a wolf one time when I was with him, and a dog
Wow.
jumped out, and the wolf saw me and ran off. And we have mountain lion up here, and but I've never really been afraid of. I guess when I was younger, I probably was more afraid of the woods, but I don't really get afraid. It just there's times where it's eerie out there, where I'm like, there's just something that's making me uncomfortable.
Right.
And I'll kind of learn that maybe that's just a sign to get the hell off the trail, or
Yep.
take the easy trail today and go back to my Jeep.
Yep, your intuition's your guidelines, man, telling you ahead of time. And you know it. If it feels right, it is right. If it feels wrong, something's giving you that warning sign. Respect it by any and all means.
Well, it's funny, and I'll tell you real quickly. I know you got to go and we'll wrap up. I'm actually getting my knee braces on right now, so I can hit the trail. Last week I was going to go do the long trail, and we hadn't had any snow yet, so it was bare ground. And I was talking to my mom on my phone, and she's like, honey, I don't really think you should do that. I think you should just, there's when you pull in, you can tell if there's anybody on the trail, because there'll be trucks and cars and Jeeps parked in the trailhead, the parking lot, and there wasn't anybody. I'm like, that's odd. It's a weird day for nobody to be out here. Beautiful day. And so I was going to hike the long hike. And all of a sudden, I'm looking, I'm going, and I've never hiked a short hike before. And I know I do the trail, the long hike, I just kind of do it it's just by instinct. I just know the route. It's marked, but I know the route. And all of a sudden, I'm going back toward my Jeep. I'm like, how the hell, after the dozens and dozens of times I've hiked that trail, did I just turn and go the short one and head back to my Jeep so soon? And when I got on the trail that day, there was something weird about the trail to me. I just felt odd, like, I don't know if I should be out here. And it was like, it's just something guided me, take the trail, the easy one, so I could get back to my Jeep in time. And it's something I've never done before. I don't think I've ever hiked that trail before. If I had it one time, so the short one. So I don't even know that trail, but I found myself on it just naturally. It was like I was just kind of guided to that short trail at times to keep me off the long trail.
Wow.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. There's weird stuff out there.
Hey, I had a thought that just came into my head in regards to like some of my online courses. Like I have 2 of them that's on my website right now, the self-defense and my kickboxing home fitness 31-day program. What do you think if we were to add like 50% off for all the Bamboo Lab members? All they enter is a coupon code for this course.
I think if you're willing to do that, I think that'd be great. I can put that right in the text of the podcast.
Heck yeah. I figured, man, 50% off. So it's a $400 course and they get it for 200. They have lifetime access for it.
So because I was going to get the podcast edited tonight, as far as it's finalized and gone out, so it can go out to you right away. Do you know how to do I don't know how to do like coupon codes and things like that.
Yeah, so I'll just send you the coupon code, enter this at checkout, and they get automatic discount, and it's forever. It's 50% off, as for you doing what you're doing for the Bamboo and to give back to other people. And if they want it, great. If they don't, then no worries. It's a 7-day guaranteed refund. You know what I mean? If they see it's not there, but people on there, it gives them coaching, fitness, kickboxing at home. And it's something that's, I think, easy for everybody to do. And if they want more training, there's other options, but right in there, that's straight up for the course right there.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah, if you could, because I'm gonna do the hike. I'll be back in an hour and a half. I'm gonna shower, have a quick bite to eat, then I'm gonna sit down and start editing this podcast. And I'd like to start marketing it tonight and get a good sound bite, put it out there.
Perfect.
And then I can even put that in there, tease people, because I think, like I said, I might put this one out Wednesday.
Gotcha.
I might get it out early, but when I get it to you tonight, if I do, there's a 95% chance you'll get it tonight. There are a couple things that I'm gonna adjust to make sure the audio is good, which I think it'll be fine. And if everything's goes well, I'll get it to you today yet. Please feel free to take it right from there and do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I will. I'll download it and put it up on my social media and all that stuff and say, hey, here's a little soundbite before it comes out. Be on the lookout.
Okay, Jimmy, I'm gonna jump. My son's calling, but one favor, when you put it on social media, will you please tag me in it? That'll help it get that much more footing too.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, brother. Hey, I gotta take this for my son. I love you, and I'll talk to you probably later today. I'll text you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Brian. Have fun.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.